Picture this. A man stands in the ruins of his bombed-out factory. Everything he's built reduced to rubble and ash. World War II has stolen his dreams, his machinery, his future. He's 47 years old. No formal education. No wealthy investors. Just calloused hands, a broken heart, and a burning obsession that would soon set the world on fire. His name was Enzo Ferrari. And in less than a decade, this stubborn son of a blacksmith, who never even finished school, would create the most legendary, most lusted-after automobile brand in human history. A brand so powerful that grown men weep at the sound of its engine. A brand where a single car can cost more than a mansion, and people still wait years just for the privilege to buy one. A brand that didn't just build cars, it built gods on wheels. But behind the prancing horse logo and the intoxicating scream of a V12 engine lies a story soaked in tragedy, betrayal, obsession, and death. A story of a man who loved racing more than his own family. A man who manipulated drivers, defied governments, and watched young men die in his machines, yet somehow became immortal. How does a poor boy with nothing become Ferrari? How does tragedy become legend? And what dark price did Enzo Ferrari pay to build an empire that would outlive him by generations? This is the story of how one man's grief, rage, and relentless ambition created the most seductive symbol of speed and wealth the world has ever known. Enzo Anselmo Ferrari was born on February 18, 1898, in Modena, Italy, a region already famous for its mechanical innovation and industrial grit. But Enzo's family wasn't wealthy. His father, Alfredo, was a small-time metalworker who ran a modest workshop fabricating parts for railroads. His mother, Adalgisa, kept the household together while Italy teetered on the edge of poverty and political chaos. Enzo's childhood was unremarkable until the day his father took him and his older brother, Alfredo Jr., to a car race in Bologna. Enzo was just 10 years old, but watching those roaring machines tear around the track ignited something primal inside him. He didn't just want to see speed, he wanted to create it. He wanted to be it. But life had other plans. When World War I erupted, Enzo's father and brother both fell ill and died within months of each other. The family workshop collapsed. Enzo, barely 20 years old, was drafted into the Italian army, where he served as a blacksmith, shoeing mules on the mountain front. It was cold, brutal, and humiliating work. He dreamed of engines while hammering horseshoes in the freezing mud. After the war, Enzo returned to a shattered Italy with no money, no prospects, and no future. He knocked on the doors of Fiat, the largest automaker in Italy, begging for a job. They rejected him. He tried again. Rejected again. He was nobody, a poor kid from Modena with grease under his nails and fire in his belly. But Enzo Ferrari refused to quit. He finally convinced a small car company called CMN to hire him as a test driver. It wasn't glamorous, but it got him behind the wheel. And once Enzo tasted speed, there was no turning back. He started racing competitively in 1919, driving for Alfa Romeo, one of Italy's most prestigious racing teams. He wasn't the fastest driver, he knew that, but he was smart, cunning, and obsessed. He studied every gear, every curve, every vibration. He learned that winning wasn't just about talent, it was about strategy, engineering, and control. By 1929, Enzo had transitioned from driver to team manager, founding Scuderia Ferrari, a racing team that prepared and entered Alfa Romeo cars into competitions. The prancing horse logo, which would become synonymous with speed and luxury, was adopted in honor of Francesco Baracca, a World War I fighter ace, whose mother gave Enzo her son's squadron emblem for good luck. For over a decade, Scuderia Ferrari dominated the racing world, winning championship after championship. Enzo had found his calling, not as a driver, but as the mastermind behind the machines. He was building something bigger than himself. But in 1938, Alfa Romeo absorbed Scuderia Ferrari and pushed Enzo out. He was forbidden from using the Ferrari name in racing for 4 years. Humiliated and furious, Enzo retreated to Modena, where he founded a new company called Auto Avio Costruzioni. Officially, it made machine tools and aircraft parts. Unofficially, Enzo was plotting his revenge. Then, World War II arrived and bombed everything to the ground. The war ended in 1945, and Enzo Ferrari stood in the wreckage of his factory. Most men would have given up, but Enzo saw opportunity in the ashes. Italy was broken, desperate for symbols of hope and pride, and Enzo Ferrari was about to give them a machine that would make the world stop and stare. In 1947, at the age of 49, Enzo unveiled the Ferrari 125S, the first car to bear the Ferrari name. It was a small, brutally loud, open-wheel racing car powered by a 1.5-liter V12 engine designed by the brilliant engineer Gioacchino Colombo. The car screamed at 7,000 RPM, the sound so visceral, it felt alive. It wasn't just a car, it was a statement. On May 11, 1947, the 125S made its debut at the Piacenza racing circuit. It broke down mid-race. 2 weeks later, it won the Rome Grand Prix. The legend was born. Ferrari's strategy was simple, but radical. Build the most advanced racing cars on the planet, win races, and use that glory to sell exclusive road cars to wealthy clients who want loud, uncomfortable, temperamental, but impossibly fast. The 1950s became Ferrari's golden decade. The brand dominated Formula One, winning championship after championship. Drivers like Alberto Ascari, Juan Manuel Fangio, and Phil Hill became household names, piloting blood-red Ferraris across Europe. The Ferrari 250 GT, introduced in 1954, became an instant icon. A sleek, gorgeous machine that combined racing pedigree with elegant design. Celebrities, royalty, and industrialists lined up to buy them. Enzo's business model was brilliant: exclusivity. He deliberately produced fewer cars than demand required, creating a mystique around the brand. Owning a Ferrari wasn't just about money, it was about worthiness. Enzo personally vetted buyers, rejecting anyone he deemed unworthy. If you were rude, flashy, or disrespectful, you didn't get a Ferrari. Even millionaires were turned away. By the late 1950s, Ferrari wasn't just a car company, it was a cultural phenomenon. Hollywood stars drove Ferraris. Racing legends died in them. The prancing horse became a symbol of Italian excellence, raw power, and unattainable desire. But beneath the glory, something dark was growing. The 1960s were Ferrari's imperial era. The brand was untouchable, both on the racetrack and in the public imagination. Ferrari dominated Le Mans, the world's most prestigious endurance race, winning 6 times between 1960 and 1965. The Ferrari 250 GTO, released in 1962, became the most coveted automobile ever made. Only 36 were built, and today they sell for over $70 million each. Enzo Ferrari had done the impossible. He had turned cars into religion. Factories in Maranello worked around the clock, hand-assembling each car with obsessive precision. Every engine was a masterpiece of engineering, every body panel sculpted like a work of art. Ferrari wasn't mass-producing vehicles. It was crafting icons, each one a tribute to speed, beauty, and danger. But Enzo himself remained an enigma. He rarely left Maranello. He avoided public appearances, preferring to rule his empire from behind closed doors, dressed in dark suits and sunglasses that hid his calculating eyes. He was cold, ruthless, manipulative. He played his engineers and drivers against each other, believing competition bred excellence. He called his cars red passion machines, but treated people like expendable parts. And then there were the deaths. Ferrari's racing success came at a horrifying cost. Drivers died constantly, burned alive in fiery crashes, crushed in mangled wreckage, torn apart at 200 miles per hour. Between 1955 and 1965, over a dozen Ferrari drivers were killed. Enzo attended their funerals, stone-faced and silent, then returned to Maranello and built faster cars. Critics accused him of being heartless. Enzo's response was chilling. The car is the star, the driver is the tool. But Enzo himself was haunted. In 1956, his beloved son Dino died of muscular dystrophy at just 24 years old. Enzo never recovered. He became even colder, more obsessed, pouring his grief into engines and speed. He named an entire line of cars after Dino, immortalizing his son in metal and horsepower. By the mid-1960s, Ferrari was generating millions in revenue, dominating motorsport, and operating as an almost mythical institution. Enzo Ferrari had become more than a man. He was a legend, but the empire was about to crack. In 1963, Henry Ford II decided he wanted to buy Ferrari. Ford was the king of American mass production. Ferrari was the jewel of Italian craftsmanship. Ford offered Enzo millions of dollars and promised to keep the racing program intact. For weeks, negotiations proceeded. Contracts were drawn up. It seemed done then. At the last moment, Enzo walked away. Why? Because buried in the contract was a clause. The deal collapsed spectacularly, and Henry Ford II, humiliated and enraged, vowed revenge. Ford poured millions into building the GT40, a Le Mans supercar designed for one purpose: destroy Ferrari. And in 1966, Ford did exactly that. GT40s finished first, second, and third at Le Mans, crushing Ferrari's dominance in the most public, humiliating way possible. Enzo was furious, but the damage was done. Ferrari's invincibility had been shattered. Worse still, internal chaos was tearing the company apart. In 1961, Enzo's longtime engineers, the brilliant minds who had designed Ferrari's greatest cars, staged a mass walkout after Enzo sided with his business manager in a bitter power struggle. 8 top engineers quit in a single day, gutting Ferrari's technical brain trust. The press called it the Palace Revolt. Then came the disasters. In 1967, Lorenzo Bandini, one of Ferrari's star drivers, crashed horrifically at the Monaco Grand Prix. His car flipped, burst into flames, and Bandini burned to death in front of thousands of spectators on live television. The image of his Ferrari engulfed in fire became a symbol of the sport's deadly cost. Public outrage followed. Activists demanded stricter safety regulations. Governments threatened to ban motorsports altogether. Ferrari's image, once glorious, now reeked of death and recklessness. And then, in May 1957, came the disaster that nearly destroyed Ferrari forever: the Mille Miglia tragedy. During the legendary open road race, a Ferrari, driven by Alfonso de Portago, suffered a tire blowout at 150 miles per hour. The car flew off the road and plowed into a crowd of spectators, killing de Portago, his co-driver, and 9 innocent bystanders, including 5 children. Italy erupted in fury. Enzo Ferrari and his team were charged with manslaughter. The trial dragged on for years, turning Enzo into a villain. He was eventually acquitted, but the damage was catastrophic. The Mille Miglia was banned forever. Ferrari's reputation was in ruins. Enzo retreated deeper into isolation, bitter and paranoid. His empire was crumbling. By the early 1970s, Ferrari was bleeding money. Racing budgets had exploded, and the company's small-scale production model couldn't sustain the costs. Competitors like Porsche and Lamborghini were gaining ground. Ferrari needed help desperately. In 1969, Enzo made the most controversial decision of his life. He sold 50% of Ferrari to Fiat, the company that had once rejected him. It was a bitter pill, but it saved Ferrari from bankruptcy. Fiat injected capital, modernized production, and stabilized finances. But Enzo retained control over racing. He would never surrender that. Throughout the 1970s and 80s, Ferrari clawed its way back. New models like the Ferrari 308 GTB, made famous by Magnum, PI, and the monstrous Ferrari F40, Enzo's final creation, rekindled the brand's mystique. The F40, with its twin-turbocharged V8 and raw, unfiltered speed, became an instant legend. But Enzo's health was failing. He rarely left his home, ruling Ferrari like a ghost. On August 14, 1988, Enzo Ferrari died at the age of 90, just weeks after the F40's launch. The world mourned. Italy declared a day of national remembrance. But Enzo's death also freed Ferrari to evolve into something new. After Enzo's death, Ferrari transformed. Under Fiat's full ownership, later acquired by Stellantis, the company modernized, expanded, and became a global powerhouse. Models like the F355, Enzo Ferrari, and LaFerrari pushed technological boundaries while honoring the brand's racing soul. Ferrari returned to Formula One dominance in the 2000s with Michael Schumacher, winning 5 consecutive championships. The brand became synonymous with victory again. In 2015, Ferrari went public, and its market valuation soared past $50 billion. Today, Ferrari produces around 13,000 cars annually. Still exclusive, still coveted, still impossibly expensive. The brand continues to command premium prices and cult-like devotion. A new Ferrari can cost anywhere from $250,000 to several $1 million. Yet the waiting lists stretch for years. The company carefully controls production to maintain exclusivity. Just as Enzo intended, Ferrari has also embraced modern technology while preserving its heritage. Hybrid powertrains, advanced aerodynamics, and cutting-edge materials now complement the traditional V12 roar. The brand has entered new markets, launched exclusive limited editions, and continues to dominate both the luxury car market and the racing world. Enzo Ferrari never learned to use a computer. He never flew in an airplane. But he built machines that defined human ambition. Ferrari isn't just a car company. It's proof that obsession, when channeled with ruthless focus, can transcend mortality. Enzo's legacy is written in every screaming V12, every race won, every heart that skips a beat at the sight of a red prancing horse. He changed the automotive industry forever. Ferrari proved that cars could be more than transportation. They could be art, passion, and status, all rolled into one. The brand established the template for luxury performance vehicles that every supercar manufacturer still follows today. Enzo's influence extended beyond cars. He showed the world that brand mythology matters as much as the product itself. Ferrari doesn't just sell vehicles, it sells dreams, heritage, and an invitation to an exclusive club. This marketing genius has been studied and replicated across industries, from fashion to technology. The racing heritage Enzo built remains unmatched. Ferrari is the most successful team in Formula One history. With over 240 Grand Prix victories and 16 Constructors' Championships, the brand's red cars have become synonymous with speed itself. But perhaps Enzo's greatest legacy is proving that limitations, poverty, lack of education, personal tragedy need not define your destiny. He transformed grief into greatness, rage into revolution, and obsession into immortality. He was a tyrant, a genius, a man haunted by death, yet obsessed with speed. He built machines that killed men he called friends, yet created beauty that moves souls. He was deeply flawed, impossibly driven, and utterly unforgettable. And in the end, he became immortal, not in flesh, but in steel, fire, and legend.